You're listening to Black Parents Aging, where we help you navigate caring for aging loved ones. Every Wednesday, we'll discuss how to help your parents successfully navigate this new season of life. We are going to talk about legal, health, technology, and finances. Here's your host attorneys, Olivia Smith and Nicola Robinson.
Hello, guys. Welcome back to another episode of Black Parents Aging. Welcome. We are so glad to have you. So I'm joined again by my co-host. Say hi, co-host.
Hi.
It's Olivia, you guys. So today we are going to talk about the financial documents that your parents should have and that you need to know about. A lot of times we see clients and their kids might join them in those consultations, and we start asking questions about their financial assets, and the parents don't remember things and the kids don't know about things. So we thought today would be a great time to have that conversation with you guys so you can go back, talk to your parents, and kind of get some stuff sorted out. So Liv, I'm going to turn it over to you. Get us started on what the documents we're going to discuss today.
So for me, I think this is a really important topic just because people sometimes need help navigating this. In the last year of COVID, I don't even want to say this number, but 350,000 people have passed away in the last year just from COVID. And there's been a lot of discussion about this. And what we know because of what we do is you need to know about these documents before someone passes. If a senior needs to apply for benefits or if they need to establish financial need to be able to qualify, you may have to provide documentation, which means you're going to need to know what the documentation is and where to find it. Now, some of us are planners ourselves. We're organized, and we have parents that are planners, no nonsense. They've accepted aging. They know that at some point they're going to pass, and, they have prepared for it. These are the same parents that'll declutter the house. They regularly update their will and trust. They may even buy, I'm dead now what? Books or peace of mind planner just to prepare themselves. So, and there are dozens of these books out there if anybody is interested. So I think we have to worry a little less about this group of people. They're going to have their stuff together. They've probably got it in a neat binder somewhere. They can put their hand on it and tell you exactly where it is.
And I want to say kudos to you. And
right. Shout out to those people.
If that is your parents, then yes, you are already way ahead of the game. That ain't my mama, that ain't my daddy, and that ain't 80% of the people that we encounter.
And that's where I'm going. Then there's another group, and that group is the put it off to another dayers or the change the subjectors. Now, when you start even trying to talk about this with them, please be prepared for those tactics because that is probably what you're going to get. And so these are the people really, and it's probably 75-80% of the people, they're not trying to talk about this. But this is what this episode is for you to be able to kind of guide and help them and even know what you should be asking them about as far as their financial documents are concerned. So now that we've laid that groundwork, Nicola, I guess you can jump into what are some of the documents that we should be looking for, that we should be asking our parents about.
All right. So I'm going to start with the big one because this is the one we already pretty much have in mind, and that's the bank accounts. Mm-hmm. We need to know where our parents bank. And listen, don't just run up to your mama talking about where your money at.
It's not going to go well.
Because this is just not something we talk about in our community.
That's true.
We are not open when it comes to finances. And so especially parent-child relationships, they're not necessarily ones where everybody talks about freely and openly where funds are kept. But you need to understand what institutions have their bank, they bank with. And, let's talk about the checking account. What bank is that in? Because it may be a different bank from where is the savings account, or they may have certificates of deposit, some CDs, or they may have this, vacation account over at the credit union. Mm-hmm. We see time and time again when we start talking to our clients about the different accounts, it might be 5 or 6 different financial institutions. And so we want to make sure that if there was a crisis or there was some situation where you needed to access all of this, that you actually know where to go. We see that a lot where the kids just have no idea.
And not even just planning, we do probate. We see it on the other side when someone has passed and we're trying to help their loved one or their child kind of settle their estate. And they're trying to figure out where their parents had accounts, what banks. They're trying to sift through mail. They're trying to wait and see if any statements are going to come because they have no idea, which really holds up the process and can be very frustrating.
Mm-hmm. And let's talk about just even cash in the house. Do your parents listen, we probably have parents are of the generation of put it under the mattress.
Yes.
So, or, other hiding places in the house.
Yes.
So if that's your parent, you need to know that. You need to know if there are things in the house, especially when our parents are aging and we might have cleaning people coming in, or we have nurses or other people that are coming to check in or to do stuff for them. We need to know if there's cash in the house or if there is jewelry in the house, that, things that could easily walk off so that we can secure those and just make sure that they are there for whomever your parents decide that they should be bookmarked for, and that the gardener or the nurse don't all of a sudden come up on this Rolex.
And just because my mom's going to get mad at me for saying this, but my mom will put things up and then she will put it up from herself. And so then when she wants to put her hand on it, she's like, I know I put that up somewhere. Where is it? Same thing with this. It also helps you help them keep track of what they have and where it is, because they may put it somewhere and then forget all about it.
That is so, so true. And then let's talk about investment accounts. So let's talk about like 401k accounts, pension accounts, annuities. Where's the documentation for those? You may not necessarily need to know the amounts in the accounts, but you need to know, again, what are the institutions that hold these? These are likely contractual relationships.
Yes.
Do you have the documentation that outlines what that relationship is? And, sometimes, especially with the pension, your parents may have retired a long time ago. We don't have all of the ins and outs. Call those companies, they have it on file so that you too can have a clear understanding of what it is that your parents should be receiving. You got something you want to add?
Yes. The other thing about those accounts too is most of those accounts are beneficiary accounts. So while you're having this conversation with your parents, it's also a good time to remind them and ask them, do they need to update the beneficiaries on these accounts?
Life happens and things change. And some of the people you may have named as beneficiaries on these accounts, maybe you got a divorce. So that ex-husband is still, the person that's named on there. Or maybe your parents, named a sibling of yours that they have, that their relationship is not the same. And so maybe they want to change the amounts that they pass on to people, or change the people on there altogether. People are so set it and forget it sometimes about these, but they need to change in stages of life. So you always want to make sure they're current.
And what you just need to remember is, because these are contractual agreements, that institution is not in your family business. They don't care. They are going to send the money to whoever's name is on the line. They don't know what your relationship is at the current time. They don't know whether you're still married or divorced. All they know is that is the name listed as the beneficiary, and that is who they're going to pay out to.
That is so true, because we sometimes get those calls and people be like, well, all the life insurance money went to, this distant person that my mom hasn't spoken to in years. I know she would have wanted me to have it. Well, she should have put that on the line.
Absolutely.
Mm-mm. And then let's talk about tax returns. So many times people don't know whether their parents have filed tax returns.
Yes.
When's the last time they filed? The guideline from the IRS is that you should have at least the last 3 years worth of statements. And so ask your parents, like, hey, where are your IRS statements? Are they in the house? Where are they kept? Because if we need to have a conversation with the IRS, we will have the documentation to better have that conversation. And then maybe they haven't filed and you don't know, or they don't remember the last time they filed, which is pretty common, honestly. When people, most of us think April 15th is standard. But as you age and you're not required to file like you used to, you stop remembering that. It's not as important. True. April 15th don't mean nothing to you.
Nope, just another day.
So what you can do with your parents is you can fill out a form with the IRS to get what's called their transcript. It's the IRS form. It's 4506T as in Tom. And that is the wage and income transcript for all the years that they have not filed. So you would just need to fill that out. And then it should be able to give you all the information for the last 10 years of their filings with the IRS.
Next on our list of documents are savings bonds, stock certificates, and brokerage accounts. Now, a quick note about bonds. Some people still have paper bonds lying around. The U.S. Treasury stopped over-the-counter sales of paper U.S. bonds in 2010, December 31st, 2010. But 20, 30, 40 years ago, it was common for people to buy bonds as gifts. And we can imagine there are still a lot of those sitting around on desks and filing cabinets. And if your loved one has a paper savings bond, they can redeem them for an electronic bond. And they can do that at treasurydirect.gov. That's helpful also to keep up. You're not having to try to keep up with paper. You now have an electronic bond. These bonds stop earning interest on the day they mature. So it may be a good time to cash them in if they've already matured or convert them. Because if they're laying around, you don't know they're there, it's just another piece of paper, they may get thrown out. Like you may overlook it. You're not looking for a savings bond. And so that's money that may be just lost or gone. So that is something to think about, asking your parents, do they have any savings bonds that they have in a safe or in a filing cabinet or drawer or something like that. The next thing is partnership or corporate operating agreements. So does your parent have some sort of business? And if they do, or do they own shares in a business? And if they do, where is the agreement that dictates what that looks like?
No, that made me just also think about, like, we get this one so much because parents retire from businesses or they were entrepreneurs and you don't really know the ins and outs of that business. And so and same thing with stock certificates, because a lot of times people get stock as part of their compensation package from the companies that they may have worked for. And so it's amazing to me sometimes because the kids are just like, I have no idea. And the parents don't remember either. It's been 30 or 40 years.
Absolutely. I know I worked with planning for a client that had significant stock in a company that was a privately held company. And so we were trying to figure out what the agreement was as far as the stock was concerned. What could he do with it? And I asked him for the agreement and he was like, what agreement? Like he had no idea that there was even an agreement. And so these are things that you want to ask so that you can figure out what is going on with their assets.
And you want to do this early, y'all. Let's not wait till there's a crisis or there's an emergency or a need. Let's just have that information so we are better prepared for down the road. And absolutely. I cannot stress that enough. It is a very difficult place when people are asking you to make decisions and you don't have the information. You don't know what your parents own. And so you want to make sure right now, today, you can absolutely say, these are the things that they have. And then we can make better decisions about what needs to happen with them.
I totally agree. Which
moves me to deeds, property. rental properties, their current residence, any type, land, deeds.
Yes.
Know what your parents own. We are in a case right now with a client who every other month, it seems that we are discovering yet another piece of property.
Which is amazing that they have all of this property, but if we only knew at the beginning.
Yes. And so it's difficult because it's just hard to plan. They're like, well, I thought she owned one. We are up to 6.
Yes.
And it continues. And she is not in a position now to express to her children what it is that she owns.
Yes.
And so we are having to play detective to figure it all out. So speak to your parents now, and and sometimes they forget. We see that a lot. We have seen parents say, oh, I want to, leave you the house in the country. And they'd be like, but mama, you sold that like 10 years ago.
Yes.
Because they just don't remember themselves.
Yes. Let me add a special note here about heirs property. So when you are talking to your parents, you need to also talk to them about property they may have inherited, property they may share with siblings or other family members that may not be top of mind because maybe they're not doing anything with it right now, but they are a part owner of that property.
That is such a good point. And in Georgia, that's where we are, guys. In Georgia, especially in some of the more rural areas, we see a lot of tangled titles and heirs property because grandma passed away and nobody ever changed the deed and nobody ever looked at the title. And so your parent might be one of those people who own 1/18th share.
Yes.
Of a piece of property, but it's important because you need to know if they do in fact own a share of that property. And then let's talk about vehicle titles, motorcycles, RVs, trailers, boats, even an airplane. You'd be surprised.
Yes.
People, it could be sitting in a hangar somewhere and y'all forgot that your mama invested in this portion of this airplane. So really anything with a title, you need to find out, do they still have an ownership interest in it? And if so, where is that title? If it's missing, if you find out that they still own it and we don't know where the title is, we can always try to get a duplicate title now rather than wait till we actually really, really need it for something.
Yes.
Mm-mm. And then I think we should also talk about documentation of loans, debts, or credit accounts.
These are the not so fun ones. This is the not so fun. Right.
Hopefully, prayfully, your parents have paid off all their student loans. But maybe, they took out a second. That's our problems.
Right. I don't want to talk about it.
But maybe they took a line of credit, or maybe they took out a second mortgage, or maybe they entered into a promissory note with a colleague or with another family member. And so they should be expecting some type of repayment on that. So it's important to have the documentation on those as well, because if there is an emergency and these things need to be paid back at some point, we need to know what that obligation was. And that also brings me to another one. Has your parents already prepaid for any of their funeral expenses? Do you have the documentation?
Yes, that's important.
So I think the title shouldn't be just financials. I think we need to just talk about the paper. We need to talk about all the paper that your parents are supposed to have. And do you know where that paper is? Mm-hmm. So life insurance paper. That's another contractual agreement that has a beneficiary designation. Do you know the companies? And especially back in the day when people would buy like $1,000 policy here or a $500 policy there.
Yes.
So your parents might have 6, 7, 8 policies. Find out where all of them are. Find out what paper is coming to the house regarding these policies. Find out if the beneficiary designations are up to date so that you will know exactly, okay, who do we need to contact when my parents pass away? And pets. So is there any pet insurance? If, Fido is your mama best friend, shout out to my mama and Pepsi, her best friend. But yeah, that's my mom loved a dog, probably equally, I'm going to say equally to her children, but is there pet insurance? Are there things in place in the event that something happens to him that we as her children need to be made aware of? And so you might want to talk to your parents about that as well. And then there's finally
the big ones.
Documents, the big ones, the ones that we will go into so much more detail as we continue this podcast.
Yes.
But it's estate planning documents. That's the will. That's the trust. Is there a healthcare directive in place? Is there a HIPAA authorization? And is there a power of attorney? Especially a trust. A trust is can be a complex thing. And so if there is a trust in place, do you know anything about that trust? Find out. I guess that's the moral of this whole episode. Go find out.
Absolutely.
Y'all got some serious homework because you just need to know. It's not about being in your parents' business. Like, let's take that off the table. Because sometimes, I've heard that client say, I tried to talk to my mom about this, and she talked about why you all in my business.
Oftentimes.
It is not about being in the business. It's about making sure that everybody's on the same page and making sure that you can help them adequately when they need your help.
And I think it's also about having a clear understanding, because I think sometimes we look at our parents through rose-colored glasses because they're our parents. They're like our heroes, and we have a certain thought or perspective about who our parents are. And so we may think that our parents are in one financial condition, and then by understanding what they have, what their debts are, then the truth about where they are financially. And that may change your thought process or your strategy in helping your parents when you have a clear understanding of where they stand financially. I think oftentimes we think because they took care of us, you know what I'm saying? They probably have it all together. They've got everything neatly packaged for us when they pass. It's just going to be handed to us. And that's not always the case. And our parents don't always share their hardships or their struggles with us because they want to protect us from certain things. And so I think that sometimes contribute to us not having an accurate picture of what's going on.
That is such a great point. And that just triggered in my mind one of the documents that we did not talk about. But I think you made that point about when we see their financial picture and really understand long-term care insurance.
Yes.
Find out, do your parents even have long-term care insurance? A lot of people don't. It's so commonplace to talk about car insurance or life insurance or even, insurance on our house. But long-term care insurance is just something we weren't talking about before. But as baby boomers are retiring and living longer, and the majority are going to face some type of medical crisis that would require them to go into assisted living or a nursing home facility, how is that going to be paid for? And so that's where long-term care insurance comes in. So while you're helping your parents kind of sort out all their documentation, that opens the door for some other important conversations. It helps you to say, hey, mom and dad, do you have long-term care insurance? And if you don't have it, what are your thoughts on how we would pay for some type of nursing home or medical crisis if you end up having one? And looking for all these documents also is a good place to realize what they don't have in terms of planning. Maybe they don't have a will already or a power of attorney or the healthcare directive. And that's kind of where we come in, is saying, hey guys, okay, let's talk to an estate planning and elder law attorney so that they can look at your situation and help you understand what's missing and what documents do you need to have in place to make sure that things aren't super stressful and super complicated as your health begins to fail. So I think the moral of this episode is find all the documents, see what they have. Understand that that's going to lead to probably another hard conversation. We good for some hard conversations over here. But that will help you to understand what it is that they need to fill in the gaps. Anything I missed, Liv?
No, I think you covered everything.
All right, guys. Well, that is another episode of Black Parents Aging. We hope you got some takeaways and tidbits. I know I just gave y'all some homework to go figure out what your parents have in terms of titles, deeds, documentation, insurance. So if there is any questions that you have about this episode or any of our previous episodes, please reach out to us. You can find us on our website, www.srlawgrp.com. You can find us also on Facebook at SR Law Group, or you can find the Facebook group for this episode of Black Parents Aging. So until next time, talk to you soon.
See you later.
Thanks for joining us this week on Black Parents Aging. Check out our Facebook group at Black Parents Aging, where we go live to answer your questions. For more info on today's topic, check out the show notes on our website, srlawgrp.com. If you know someone who could benefit from today's episode, please share a link to the show. Subscribe to the show to catch new episodes and leave a review. Until next week.